Welcome everyone to Unscripted. There are voices in the space that chase headlines, and then there are those who quietly build, study, and truly understand the system beneath it all. Tonight's conversation lives in that difference. It's about discipline in a market driven by emotion, about bringing structure to chaos and conviction to uncertainty. While most people are reaching to price, there are a few who stay focused on process, data, and long term strategy. And that mindset changes everything. This is someone who didn't just enter the world of digital assets, they translated it. They've taken principles that have stood the test of time and asked how they evolve in a new financial era. From managing risk in traditional systems to navigating emerging ones, from advising at high levels to building tools, frameworks, and insights others can actually use, their journey reflects a deeper understanding of both worlds. But beyond the credentials, what stands out most is the mindset. The willingness to question the noise, the discipline to stay grounded when others get swept up, and the vision to see where this is all going before it becomes obvious. Tonight, this isn't just a conversation about markets. It's about perspective, about systems, and about what it really means to think like an investor in a world that moves faster than ever. So let's lean into the clarity, the experience, and the insight behind the noise. Tonight, we are going unscripted with Mathew Snider. Mathew, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Leslie. Amazing intro. I'm taken aback. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you coming on, talking about your journey, talking about this space, and the different worlds, and giving a little bit of a view into who you are. And you've been in this space for a while, a long time. I am going to say a few years. And sometimes, there are people that are doing great things, and sometimes we don't bring that visibility to them. And it's like, it's always the big voices that are not doing anything that have most of the visibility, and you're doing a lot of things. You're even an author, which a lot of us didn't even know.
Yeah, this was, and I'm thinking about putting, this is Warren Buffett in a Web3 world. We took 1,300 pages of Warren Buffett shareholder letters and condensed them into an easy to read and snackable investment guide for people in the Web3 space. And
Mhm.
like a lot of people say, like, just because, Warren Buffett hates crypto doesn't mean that you can't learn from him. It's been 60 plus years of 20% compounded returns over time. But I'm happy to say, I want to put a sticker on it that says, like, this was written before AI. I think that that's
This
like,
was written before. Okay, so enlighten me a little bit
yeah.
when you're saying this is written before and before AI. Is it because now we're seeing that a lot of people are writing books and a lot of them are very heavy on the AI aspect of it?
I think that you're seeing a lot more people utilize AI as a tool to help them write and do so in a scalable way. I think it's important for people to be cognizant that it is still a tool, just like we use, spell check on grammar and stuff like that. Like that's been AI that people have been using to help them write. But this one was something that, before we had Chat GPT, I would say, if we called it like before GPT, where you could have a large language model help you, determine what some of the words were, what the sentences were going to be like. So it was all very internal thought between me and my co-author, and we had people, edit it, who were, it was seen by real eyes when they were editing it. So yeah, such an amazing project, and such a fun thing to build.
You're like, okay, this is real. These real eyes, not AI eyes, not, it's like you really poured the human element, the human aspect into the book versus, AI. There's really not that much. There isn't any human element to anything
Right,
with AI.
right. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back a little bit because I do want to
Sure.
touch on your book a little bit further. But before we do, I do want to talk a little bit about your journey in this
Mhm.
space. When you look back, was there ever a moment where you felt like overlooked or underestimated? And if so, how did that shape the way that you move in this world today?
So, and that's a wonderful question. I think one of the most challenging aspects of crypto, or making a lifestyle in the crypto space, is that nobody's going to really invite you to come on in, right? Nobody's just saying, "Come on into the crypto space, welcome in." No, it's pretty PvP. It's pretty like competitive, and there's a lot of people trying to do it as well. And so this was probably about 2022, 2021. Um, you know, I first started seeing this NFT sort of craze come out, and I thought, how do I find a way to talk to people about NFTs? I was like, as long as I can create a landing page, and if I can get one or two people to call me and ask how to make an NFT, I'll start a consulting business. And over time, I had a lot of people call me and ask, and I was like, I want to be able to help people understand this technology, make businesses from this technology. And it wasn't a couple of years later that I was listening on Twitter and trying to really get into the social space and aspect of it, because whether it's on, X or Substack or LinkedIn, there's a big social component to this ecosystem. And I kept hearing everybody say, this isn't financial advice, this isn't financial advice. You go on all these spaces and nobody wants to give financial advice. And I thought, how do I do that? I want to be the one
Mhm.
that gives. I'm a finance nerd. I was like, how do I give financial advice? So I went and took the Series 65 in 2022. And it's a test that's recognized by FINRA and makes you a registered investment advisor. So you can legally work with people to help them make allocations to digital assets, help them build holistic portfolios, and work with them to grow wealth sustainably for the long term. Whereas their advisors now are typically saying, oh, you have Bitcoin, you should sell that. Or we don't deal with digital assets at all. You take your digital assets somewhere else. And so one of the ways to differentiate myself was to really understand the technology and its benefits, and understand where there was a niche that I had a passion for that isn't really being utilized by other folks. And so that was one of the things that really helped me differentiate myself when I was feeling like, how do I make myself work in this space?
Okay, my curiosity, because you said something earlier, and a lot of us, we run away from that financial advice, right? It's like anytime that we're talking about assets, we're going into them. Anytime that we're gonna talk about going into a meme coin, that's the big thing that we say. Even in our posts, when we're writing articles or where we're writing market updates, at the bottom, we have that disclaimer, do your
Mhm.
own research, not financial advice. But you actually ran the other way. How's that different from, your traditional finance to crypto and educating and, providing that financial advice to people in this space?
Well, one of the things that I've kind of come to realize over the last couple of years is that a financial advisor is really like a financial therapist in a lot of ways. A
Yeah.
lot of what people do when they talk to a financial advisor, a lot of what they're doing is looking for permission to do something.
Mhm.
They're saying, should I do this? Should I do that? A lot of times they also don't understand something. So they're looking to a professional. And again, when we think about an investment advisor, what that really means is that I'm a fiduciary for a paying client. That means that I have to put my interests below theirs, put their interests above all whenever I'm talking with them. And that really gives people a peace of mind, just like your doctor, just like your lawyer, that they're going to do everything in your best interest. So you can have conversations with me, and based on your particular experience, your investment objectives or goals, we can have a conversation about how crypto fits. But also thinking that there's ways to bring in traditional assets too. There's kind of this notion that a lot of people we see in crypto may not have traditional assets. And so I've always tried to bridge that in a Venn diagram of like bringing these two things together, building a
Mhm.
holistic portfolio, because you should be able to have both. And I think that that's really where I've tried to bring these parties together. And a lot of investment advisors who are traditional do not touch it. They don't have a mandate to touch it. They can't accept it. So you have all these people who, we've dealt with high net worth individuals who have millions of dollars on a ledger in their closet, and they need help trying to figure out how to get that to a certain location within a qualified custodian and insecure custody. And so that's really why I kind of did it. But there's a huge demand for it now, that especially when you have like Bank of America coming out and saying 4% of your investment should be in some kind of digital assets. So that there's definitely a lot of momentum moving in that space, and it's very cool to see.
Do you think that you're going to see, or we are going to see more and more traditional financial advisors come in and give us financial advice about crypto, or do you think that there's still some resistance?
I definitely think there's a lot of resistance. I try to speak to a lot of advisors locally. I'm from the Raleigh Durham area. I'm finding very conservative money down here. It's tough to get them to say like, oh yeah, that Bitcoin sounds really good, right? In this portfolio, not so much. So they are a little bit more reticent, a little bit more of that. I would say traditional money is a bit more reticent. And if the firm is really big, they don't really have the power to pivot one way or another. But there's a sweet spot of firms that I'm finding and talking to that are, smaller family shops, family offices, who recognize that there's the largest wealth transfer in history that's coming from the baby boomer class to the younger generations, and those younger generation members want access to digital assets, and they don't necessarily want to be in an ETF. So we're kind of seeing this reputational risk pivot now, where it used to be you tell a client you're going to put assets in Bitcoin, you're going to get fired. And now you're not going to do it, and it's going to be very bad because the client might come to you and say that's not the right way to build a portfolio, right? So it should have some aspect of that in there, and we're finally starting to see that ball roll. We just heard, I think today, that there's a proposal out there to add digital assets to 401ks. Currently, you can do so in a Roth IRA or a traditional retirement account, but there's no way to do it through your employer, and that would unlock, I think, a couple $1 trillion just to be open in terms of their ability to put money into crypto.
Yeah, I think so too. Do you think it's easier to manage somebody else's money versus your own, especially because you don't have a vested interest?
That's a great question. I've always tried to see myself as an educator, and in doing so, it's very natural to enjoy the process of working with people in terms of how to help them manage their money. A lot of times, too, they're looking for capital preservation and tax efficiency. So you look better by keeping their money and keeping it efficiently rather than making it go up 20, 30, 40, 50%. So that's a kind of nice benefit, and they're looking again for that liaison to help them. I think what's harder is when you give them recommendations and they don't take them, right? Like that's a little bit tougher because it's almost like a parent-child relationship or a doctor patient relationship, right? Like you can see what the right thing is, but it may be hard to actually get them to use it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been there, done that. Not financial advice, but I used to do real estate and mortgages, and I was able to manage their real estate portfolio better than my own. But yeah, when they didn't listen, you're like, what the fudge? And then they would come crying about, I'm not qualified or I can't get approved.
Right.
Told you so. But you've lived in both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
traditional finance and the digital assets, this space. So at a personal level, what did you have to unlearn about money, risk, and trust to fully step into crypto?
That's a really good way to think about it. The crossing the chasm for me came from reading a lot of Andreas Antonopoulos in
Mhm.
like 2015, 2016, 2017. This person has these books called I think it's the Internet of Value. And it's all about collections of talks that he would give that really it's very specific about Bitcoin, but it really opens your eyes in terms of how the system writ large works and
Mhm.
how inefficient it is and why new technologies belong here to help us evolve and get better over time. And the way that he positioned a lot of those arguments and theses made me think about what this asset really was and what this whole ecosystem really was. And once you kind of took the orange pill, as we kind of say, I guess,
Yeah.
the rest of it becomes all smart contracts and applications, and then you can kind of get an understanding of where all this is going. And it was then that really led me to that kind of that like aha moment.
That is crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's like, what am I even saying, Matthew? But
I
okay,
don't know.
so let's talk about you
I would say
managing
the
as
I
go
would say
ahead.
that the risk management piece was probably like the hardest to understand, right? Because you're so used to
Yeah.
being involved with assets that, you know, don't move all that much. So understanding how to position yourself with regards to always having like cash on the sidelines or being able to dollar cost average into things and really take measured approaches at knowing this is what I have to do. Volatility is your friend, but you have to be able to hold it, and you not necessarily need those funds for a short period of time or a longer period of time.
So is that what you do with your clients when you're managing them and you go over that with them step by step?
Yeah, and a lot of it too is a question of like outstanding debts. Like sometimes people think that they have cash in the bank, but they don't own their house outright, right? And if you don't
Mhm.
own the house outright, the bank owns it at some point. So it's important for people to understand where those debts and liabilities are in conjunction with their overall investment portfolio and approach. And always, I think it's very important that people always have cash, and you don't like to have cash. Like one problem we have, I think one of the biggest things I see from clients is they get out of a position and then they immediately want to go back into a position. And that money like burns a hole in their pocket to say like I've got to reallocate this. And it's taken a lot of time for me to understand and be comfortable with sitting in more cash, waiting for things like even Warren Buffett said, we want the market to drop even more. We've got 100 billion to deploy. Like just give them a little bit of a correction and there'll be a flood of money in the market for the people that are patient enough to get them at those kinds of prices.
This is one of the things that I had learned because I recently started learning how to trade.
Mm-hmm.
And, prior to, I've been in the space for a while and it was always, okay, you have that CA, people's telling you about the meme tokens and you're going
Mm-hmm.
in. And a lot of the times when I started trading too, I would just go in, I would see, okay, the market is going down and then start, going in. And then all of a sudden it's going up and, you get wrecked when you don't
Yeah.
know. And I think that is one of the things that it has taught me learning how to trade, what you just said, understanding the market, what it's doing, and patience. The
Mm-hmm.
patience is key because the more patient I am sitting looking at the chart, that's where I've made my big wins. When I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to scalp quick and I don't have patience, sometimes like don't even go into some of them because you're going to be sitting there. Even scalping, takes patience. But
Yeah.
managing over 250 million in assets, it sounds very powerful on paper. But behind that responsibility, what pressure did you carry that people don't see?
So those were for so we structured it at my previous engagement. We structured a number of different hedge funds, and we worked with clients over about 700 or 800 clients to put those assets to work. And
Mhm.
I would say managing that kind of capital is one, very cumbersome and scary from a perspective of actually moving the capital. So like you give your money to Bank of America and you tell them to wire it, they go wire the money, it's their problem. Clients give you crypto to put into a fund and you have to move it from wallet to wallet, and that's a lot of money to move between you and a chief compliance officer. But that is one thing that's very nerve wracking, is just recognizing like how important and trust how important it is to manage other people's money and the trust they put in you to do it correctly. And so that was always, having really strong compliance measures and really strong systems in place was very helpful in doing that. Just like when you see astronauts take off, right? They're in there for an hour double checking everything, like the number of times
Yeah.
that we would say the wallet address. And then I would say that, and then also having to produce results, right? These are funds that were actively managed and needed to perform. And sometimes we had to not give like the best news or even tepid news. And being able to handle that, it made me sometimes feel like, you can imagine what it's like to give a bad earnings report. When you see a publicly traded company come out and we didn't really hit our numbers. Being able to have that kind of communication in the face of a lot of people who instill trust in you, that's it certainly weighs on you, and you want to perform. Nobody's sitting here trying to not do well, right? And
Yeah.
I think those are kinds of things that just that don't help. And then things like 1010 don't help, and things like Liberation Day don't help.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
but like the market's going to do what the market's going to do, and you've got to trust your partners.
Absolutely. Are there like any checks and balances, extra caution procedures that you would take before transferring, crypto? Because you already know with traditional bank, something happens, you can recall that wire, you could try to get the funds back. Crypto, you send it to the wrong wallet, it's lost forever, or either
Yeah.
you replace it or
Yeah. So it may feel redundant, and I've been doing this a long time, and this is the first time that this has happened. I had never seen it. I was actually very interested to see it. um I hit the copy button from a wallet and pasted it without confirming that it was the same wallet, and doggone it, they had the first five and the last five that looked the same, but when I copy and pasted it, the middle part was totally different, and it was $30, but it could
yeah.
have been 3 million or 3,000, right? I had never seen that before. It happened on my Mac Mini, and I immediately like refreshed everything. I actually like flushed the whole computer out, got new wallets, all that kind of stuff. No idea really how it happened, but I have heard people talk about that, and I have heard people say this, and it's never. I thought this will never happen to me, and sure enough, I actually saw it with my own two eyes. So always double check the middle part of that address to make sure that it works. It's so easy just to think this is the first five. Yeah, okay, great, done, and then before you know it, you're never getting it back.
Okay, this is truly alpha, and I am so glad that I am having you on the show today because I've been doing recently, more wallets transferring here and there,
Hmm.
especially with projects and people working with you and
Hmm.
then transferring the money that they send to your wallet to another wallet so I can transfer it to my bank or whatnot. And that's what I do. I only check the first five and the last five. And I actually did that earlier today where I just checked the last few to
Hmm.
make sure that it was the wallet, but I never like cared to really check the middle. I'm like, okay, if the last five or the first five match, then I'm good. Now you saying that, now it's like they're getting
Yeah,
smarter and trickier. Check the middle.
and you're exactly right. Like it's such a obvious thing to exploit when you think about how second nature it is for us to use the
Mhm.
functionality that's designed
Yeah.
to make it easy, right?
Mhm.
So again, like always double check it. And like it's astonishing, and it's like I'm kind of mad because it's really genius. I'm like, damn, that's really good. But then I'm like, how did it get on here? And I don't know how it got on here, but I'm like, I'm kind of mad. Like that's
Oh, I mean, because they're smart. And the thing is that, it's self-custody, Matt.
Yeah,
It is,
yeah.
we're self-custody, and it's different than when you're working in the financial sector and in the banking. They have trainings, they
Oh yeah.
have processes and procedures, extra security measures to keep things like that from happening, hackers, and what to check. Simple as an email, simple as clicking on a QR code. And we don't think about those things, and
No.
it's like all of a
Taken
sudden
for
you click
granted.
on something, you share it on Telegram, you share it email, and then everybody, it's like a virus. Everybody gets infected.
Yeah. It's a PvP place. It's very harsh
Mhm.
out there. It is not very welcoming. So do yourself a favor and just always be double checking.
Yeah. So you do talk a lot about discipline and systems. Where did
Mm.
that come from? Was that something you were taught or something life forced you to develop, especially working with, a lot of money and what the sector that you worked in?
I read a lot of biographies, so I've read a
Mhm.
lot about like historical figures and about like successful CEOs, and it's a theme that comes up all the time. Is to be able to scale your efforts and to have a repeatable process is a very important thing to quote unquote like win, right, at whatever you're going to do. And especially when it comes to trading, and that's kind of why I've been building sort of an automated trading bot, because I'm excited to be able to systematize something that's so emotional for people. And I think if you could remove part of that, and I think AI is going to be really helpful in doing that for people and removing that kind of emotion, because we all shoot
Yes.
ourselves in the foot and sell too early and sell too late or buy too soon, whatever it is. And if you can keep it on a system, you're going to be much more likely to do better.
It's very difficult not to have emotions,
Yeah.
especially when you are going through a lot of personal things and you need X, Y, and Z, and or instant gratification
Hmm.
sometimes. And I think that you have to understand where you are, especially when you are trading and going to be putting in a lot of money into crypto. One of the things that I've learned about myself, especially with this tool that I am trying to, a sniping tool trading,
Oh, nice.
is that I typically look at it at night,
Hmm.
and then see what's out there. And I understand that every single time I'm going to go into something, it's going to dip before it, takes off. And
Hmm.
the best way for me not to really feel anything is try it at night, go into a place, and then allow it to simmer while I'm sleeping. And then I wake up and I was like, yes, I'm in profits. Because if
That's
I do it when I'm awake, that emotion of looking at it, especially when it's going down and
yeah.
it's tanking, and you're like, oh my God, I'm down 50%, I'm down 60%. I mean, the emotions that go through you at that point. But there's
I
a
love.
difference.
Yeah. Go. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that is like so smart, because one of the things I always talk about is if you have a hard time sleeping, your positions are too high, right? Like you've got too much money
Yeah.
in the market. So like by doing it and then forcing yourself to go to sleep, it's a pretty good method.
I'm the type of person that sometimes it's good for me to do it at night because I don't lose sleep. I have been
Sure.
liquidated a few times
Hmm.
before, I applied myself, or before I used stop losses and, take
Hmm.
profits. And I would come in the morning, I'm like, darn it, I knew it. So if I'm tired and I want to go to sleep, I'm going to go to sleep regardless. But yeah, there's been a few times where I don't do that anymore. I've learned my
Yeah.
lessons. I really don't. But in this space, in crypto that moves fast and rewards
Hmm.
hype, how do you stay grounded in principles when everything around you is just noise?
So I think being in the space a lot has given me some at least reflections on what I consider to be like actually investable opportunities in this space.
Mhm.
One of the challenges I remember having in 2017 and 2020 was feeling very much associated with either this ICO idea, like everything is a great use case, let's go get that, but that use case might be 10, 20, 30 years down the line. But because they had like a way for you to take and put money there, it was an attractive, opportunity. So
Mhm.
those kinds of things happened in 2021, 2022, and 2017. And I've really been focused on just finding positions that make that like the business actually makes money and has like a fundamental value. And other than that, I actually I spend a lot of time trying to not look at charts. I talk about this on some of our other spaces, but you know, generating income will help you get the money that you can use to put to positions to then, you know, I don't want the positions themselves to 100x necessarily, and that's my plan. The plan is to
Mhm.
back up the money truck and then put all that like money to work. So think about ways to generate additional sources of revenue so that you can fund um, the portfolio.
What has failure looked like for you in this space, and how did it redefine the way that you approach risk and opportunity?
So I think that from a personal perspective, there has been these feelings of failure when you
Mhm.
try to put your foot in the door of crypto and trying to put yourself out there and say like, hey, I can help
Mhm.
you or this company do something, and having them not really be interested. I've been kind of like waving this around and ringing the crypto bell for years, and institutions just are like, door in the face, we don't do that here. And just having the resilience to come back every year and keep asking the same questions and be willing to be like the weird crypto guy in the room has really helped me just continue to like fly in the face of that doubt or the people who say like these assets don't matter and nobody cares. And so I think that's something that has helped me just stay in the space, right? And you can also attest that a lot of this is really just about survival. Right? Right? Like a lot
Oh,
of this
yeah.
yeah, a lot of this is not like don't go away. Like we in the system classify people by how long they've been in the space because it's so hard to survive.
Yeah.
And so like at this point, I just take very measured risks.
You know, they say that sometimes you have to sound and look crazy, right? To become what you need to become, and otherwise it's you have to dream crazy.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, you also built system bots and frameworks around markets. Do you ever worry that removing emotion from investing also removes something human from the process?
So there's absolutely a necessary need for an AI tool to help you research or understand digital assets and provide context or information to a fiduciary advisor. I still think we're a long way off before somebody with $3, $4, $5 million worth of Bitcoin is just going to have AI would do their wealth planning or tax mitigation for them. Again, I think these are tools. They're still going to want that human emotion, that high EQ person who can coach them and be their financial therapist. And
Yeah.
being able to serve there and use the AI tools together will be really helpful. So I don't really think that it will upend the investment advisory business, but I think it's really important to also understand if everybody starts using these tools, they become less and less effective at finding edge, and that's something that we're going to have to deal with from an AI perspective. If everybody uses AI and AI is the best at all the stuff, then you may as well just buy the S&P 500. Like seriously.
And I was just going to say, well, I want a tool that has no feelings, no emotions, and tells me what to do.
Absolutely.
But I think we do teach AI emotions. You know, I do fight with ChatGPT
Hmm.
every now and then. I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want to sound crazy, but sometimes I'm like, no, that's not what I'm telling you to do. This is what I'm telling you to do. And then it gets sassy, like, okay, like it responds to me sassy. And I'm like, it learns you, it's
Yeah, it
learning
does.
us to take over, right?
It does. I went to get my hair cut last week, and my barber, first thing I do, I sit down and she goes, "Did you say thank you to your AI?" I said, "Yes." Well, because I talked to her about it last
Honestly,
time, and she was like, she remembered, and then I was like, she's like, "Do you thank it?" And I was like, "No, I don't thank it." And she went off on like 5 minutes of why you gotta like thank your AI.
oh my God. I think Tammy thanks the A is it Tammy or Gina? I don't remember which one thanks the AI to. And I'm not one that is thanks the AI. To me, like I'm talking to an AI, a thing that has no feelings, no emotions. Like, who cares? So somebody told me, ask AI what it thinks about you and the relationship. And then I asked it and I was like, geez, I'm not that cold just because I don't say thank you. Please, thank you.
We can,
But I guess we're similar in that, Matt.
yeah, yeah, I guess so.
Okay, so tapping into your book.
Mhm,
So your book connects Warren Buffett style thinking to Web3. On a
mhm.
deeper level, what part of Buffett's philosophy resonated with you personally, not just professionally?
So there's a compendium of his books or of his shareholder letters. It's like super long and tedious, and they just get longer and longer as the years go on. But when I read it and wrote through it, and I was like underlining things that really like stuck out for me, and that's how I kind of recognized I wanted to make this lessons book. And that's what we did, is we took individual lessons from various years that he was the chairman, and we paired those lessons with something about the Web3 space that investors should learn about. And one that always sticks out with me that I think is very prudent for the crypto space is two of them. One is hyperactive markets are the pickpocket of enterprise, which
Hmm.
means that like when things are all over the place and people are throwing money all around, like that's when people tend to lose a lot. And then the other one is inactivity strikes us as intelligent behavior, and it's the power to do nothing, right? Like when you see a lot of the stuff, the ability to be inactive or to not make the trade strikes Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, his partner, his late partner, as intelligent behavior. And so we put 60 of those together, in addition to a number of fun facts about Buffett and a glossary of helpful crypto terms, because we wanted to make it very approachable for people to read of any experience within the digital asset space.
Love that. When you were writing the book, did it challenge any of your own beliefs about investing or the future of the space?
Yeah, actually, and I'm starting to recognize that in really looking at how we can use AI to understand like Bitcoin a little bit better. And that's really the case that if you if you used Buffett's methods early on to try to find digital asset projects or tokens that would be worth holding on to, or even stocks for that matter, his philosophy doesn't actually work anymore. Yeah, you can buy undervalued companies and you can try to get them at a discount, but the markets are so efficient and prices get arbitraged so fast, and information is so pervasive across countries and the world, it
Mhm.
becomes very hard to find that edge. And that's what he did using Benjamin Graham's tutelage back in the 50s and 60s, was to find undervalued companies really by looking at their debt and their income and saying like, this is how much they make, this is how much they owe, their management team is really good and they've been around for a long time, and if I can understand what the business is going to look like in 10 years or 20 years, like Geico or See's Candy,
Mhm.
we have a pretty good idea of what the business is going to look like and how much money we can make. So a lot of that doesn't work. None of these companies in crypto have been around but 2 years. like I love Hyperliquid, right? But I don't know what Hyperliquid's going to
Yeah.
look like in 10 years.
Right. No, yeah. So maybe you answer this. I'm trying to pay attention to everything
All
and
good.
then
All
come up
good.
with the questions. But, Buffett has been very critical about crypto. So, what gave you the conviction to take his principles and apply them to a space he openly questioned?
Well, one, you got to be somewhat controversial in this space, right? Nobody was.
Yeah.
I was looking at the crypto books that were there, and I was thinking like, these are just all. This is what blockchain is. This is what Bitcoin is, and I wanted
Mhm.
to write something that like would really be what is that? How? Uh, and then in the epilogue, in the very end of the book, though, I talk about his investment in a company called Nubank, which is a South American bank that is now, it's a couple $1 billion market cap, I think. And he put a $500 million investment in that company in 2012 or 13, I think. And
Mhm.
they have a digital asset blockchain. Like they have their own cryptocurrencies. Like the dude
Wait,
invests in
what?
blockchain. Yeah, yeah. The dude invests in blockchain and doesn't even really know it. But Bitcoin is a scam, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, make that make sense.
So that was
Oh
kind
my
of
goodness.
the antithesis. Like even though he doesn't like it, he's still invested in it, and there's stuff that we can still learn.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so was there a moment while writing this book that you thought, okay, maybe this doesn't fit here, and then you actually realize, you know what, it does fit here?
So there's 60 different lessons that are in that book, and we cut it down
Mhm.
from 120.
Oh,
And
wow.
my co-author was very good, and we had to be like ruthless about, does this make sense? Is it interesting? Have we talked about this lesson before? Does it really, are we just trying to make it longer? Are we just trying to add something when we don't need to? And like, you
Mhm.
weren't going to make it 74, and you weren't going to make it like 68, and you didn't want to land on like an odd number. So we just kind of really tried to be ruthless about it. So if anything, we had to cut a lot of stuff. I would be interested and have tossed the idea around, now that it's been a few years and Greg Abel is now the chairman, of doing a revised and expanded version to come out next year. That would, because this one only goes through about 2021, and there's been about 4 or 5 more years and shareholder letters that we could reference, and we could update the glossary of terms, and we could make some news updates about some of the other details that are in the book.
I was pasting the link in the comments for everybody to go and
Nice.
grab the book ASAP.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're welcome. The book isn't about hype, it's about fundamentals. In a space addicted to speed, do you think people are even ready to hear this message that you have in your book?
I've been told it's a great toilet read. So like, people have, there's a product market fit for this. And if that's where, people need to get their education, then like, so be it. But the reception has been great.
That is amazing. Okay, I need to go grab a copy and read the book ASAP as well, because like I just want to hear the message, especially incorporating Warren Buffett into there. But you've pulled a nearly 1,000 pages of shareholder letters. What was the hardest truth to condense or translate into something people could actually understand?
Uh, I think really one of the things that's a challenge is, as much as Buffett doesn't like crypto, younger people or people who are involved in crypto typically don't want to hear from Buffett. So you
Mhm.
kind of have this juxtaposition of this old kind of cranky person who doesn't like your digital asset stuff, and you've got
Yeah,
to make that relevant and interesting to people. And that was probably like the hardest thing, was to keep that consistent messaging in a fun and lighthearted and like non-technical way, and
yeah,
really try to write to the people and for them in terms of what they'd want to see.
yeah. Now, you made this intentionally simple and accessible. Was that strategic choice, or did it come from remembering what it felt like to be new yourself in this space?
And definitely wanted to be not overly technical, also
Yeah.
because you really get into a lot of it's opinion too, and a lot of it's not,
Mhm.
you lose people in the technical things. Like, you put some charts and graphs in there, people are like, maybe this isn't for me. And it's also
Yeah.
very short and sweet. Like, it's not very dense or anything like that. And so there was an intentional method to us trying to make it very easy to read. And we like to use the term snackable, because you could start it from wherever you want. There's not really a beginning or an end.
I
And we
love
just
that term.
yeah, it's been a good one.
Now, writing forces clarity.
Hmm.
I've been journaling for the last year, and eventually
Good.
I do want to write a book. And it does force clarity. What did this book force you to confront about your own investment beliefs?
Like patience. You hear some of these things over and over and over and over again, and you think, nah, we don't have to be patient, it's fine. But like, really, this understanding of like compounded returns. And I'll give you a really good example. So when we think about compounding, like in this book, so Warren Buffett's been investing for 65 years, and he's had an average rate of return, compounded annual growth rate of 20% per year. So that means that if you had given him, what was it? If you had given him $1,000 in Berkshire Hathaway in 1965, you'd have $36 million by 2021. So the power of compounding is really, really important. And that's without ever doing anything else. $1,000 to 36 million in 65 years. Now,
Wow.
the way I got into Bitcoin was in 2015, 2014. My buddy and I would go to the bar, and I would pay for the check, and we'd go to happy hour, and then he would pay me in Bitcoin or Ethereum. And then we would do that vice versa. So then you get used to using the wallets and used to sending in the transactions. Well, now I'm
Mhm.
sitting here in like 2015 being like, those were some really expensive beers. Because if I had just kept that like Bitcoin and not had like used it to go back and forth and sell it for these beers, then like I would have had, more money worth of Bitcoin than it would have been, almost 10 years ago. So that's one of the tough lessons of Buffett is like you just sit there and let it do its thing. And if it's meant to be, it'll keep going up.
Do you think that if Buffett were entering the market today, for the first time ever, do you think he would approach crypto differently than people assume?
I think that
In your
he would.
opinion?
Yeah, no. So, like, Buffett very much has a system in terms of how he chooses organizations and teams and companies to purchase and make investments in. And I actually tried to create a dashboard using those same methodologies, like using like Claude Code, to try to
Mhm.
figure out if I could use his methodology to grade crypto projects based on how he might evaluate stocks back in the 1960s. And so I think to your point, he would absolutely use the same system. I don't know that it would necessarily be applicable,
Yeah.
but there are companies that make money and have revenue and have a team. But knowing where these companies are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a very, very tough bet to make.
What's one principle from the book that you believe people are ignoring right now, but will wish they didn't?
Be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy.
Okay, I'm gonna have to quote that. Put it on the
Yeah.
timeline.
I mean, this is a great time, right? The market feels very
Yeah.
down, and we were just at all-time highs 6, 7 months ago, and there's just all this war stuff. Um, when it doesn't feel good to buy, is usually a pretty good time to buy.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah.
I'm learning because that's where I've made the most money when the fear index is high.
Yep.
But you talk about staying in your circle of competence. In crypto, where everything moves fast, how does someone even define that?
It's a very, very good way to think about it. So when we talk about circle of competence, this just means that like I don't trade oil futures, I don't trade corn futures. I stay out of all these other lanes because I don't know anything about them. And having the humility to say I don't know is just as good as being able to say what you do know. And I think, of the top 100 tokens, I could give you the business case or use case for a vast majority of them. Some of them I haven't seen. I'm like, oh, this one's a new one. But the bottom 100 versus 101 to 10 million that are down there are just this graveyard of littered companies that like are either have no use case, nothing going on. Maybe they have like a use case, like I talked about previously, but that use case maybe 3, 4, 5 years out before it becomes something that's investable, in my opinion. So right now, I think there's a lot of noise out there, and I think there's a few strong structural plays that make a lot of sense for a long-term hold. If there's ways to scalp here and there, like very, very good, like totally cool, not a problem, not my circle of competence. So being able to understand where you fit and where you don't fit is really good for people in like long-term success.
When someone finishes your book, what do you want them to feel, not just understand?
That they are valid in thinking that there's a place for digital assets in their portfolio. A lot of times I've given this book to people and they thought, one question I get all the time is, I can't buy a Bitcoin because I can't afford a full Bitcoin.
Mhm.
And like, to make the asset class more accessible to people, I believe that finance and investments are not necessarily well democratized to people who are, marginalized in communities or lower income or come from other countries that don't have access to investment platforms. And being able to provide something that hopefully opens people's eyes to other options and avenues for them to create a way to build a sustainable wealth vehicle for themselves is really, really important. And so that's really what I want people to take away, is that yes, you can do this. Yes, these belong in a portfolio to some degree, right? It may not have to be 99% of your portfolio, but it should make up a small portion of your portfolio. And also it helps people recognize that there's a technology here that underlies, blockchain technology is actually really cool when you compare it with smart contracts, and you can build applications, and then you can give AI the ability to transact commercially. Like, to
Mhm.
me, like, what, they're not going to go to Bank of America drive through. Like, AI is going to have to find a way to commerce.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, they need a trustless system. And I think that if you can open people's eyes to those kinds of possibilities, they'll start to look at technology in a new way. And I think that's important.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that still there are going to be a lot of people out there that are still going to have that, doubt and that don't trust and don't believe in
Yep.
crypto. And, we still see it. You think that we would see it less and less, but on LinkedIn, just me recently being on there and posting certain things about crypto, I'm seeing it more and more where people are a lot more open and telling you how
Yeah.
they feel about crypto and how they disagree with it.
Hmm.
Now, who did you write this book for? For really? Is it the institutional investor or the person trying to figure it out late at night on their phone, or the people that you just mentioned, in third world countries?
Yeah, I definitely wrote it for myself.
I
This
love
is like
that.
a book this is a book that like I wanted to make. I thought this is like the coolest, and I read it like all the time. And I'm always like excited to find something that I didn't like really know in there.
Yeah.
And I really wrote it because I thought I want to put my name on something and a stamp on something. And I kind of reverse engineered the blog idea, right? A lot of people, they'll blog for a year, 2 years, 3 years, they'll have 80, 90, 100, 300 different posts, and then they'll take it and they'll make a book out of it. Great.
Mhm.
I just did it all in reverse and put everything I wanted to into a book, and then I just waved that book around all the time. And it's really like the ability to have something tangible that you wrote. Like, I don't have a kid, but I imagine it's kind of like I'm holding this thing in my arm, like it's my baby.
This is my
It,
baby. You carry it everywhere.
yeah, it's really like powerful, and it brings people a lot of joy, right? It's not like a very sad book or a very like romantic book or anything like that. It's kind of boring, but if you like crypto, it's a fun way to embrace it.
I think I am definitely going to get it and embrace it because I love crypto. I love to be in this space, everything that I'm learning. Once I started really educating myself about it,
Hmm.
it's just a different perspective, right?
Yep.
Um, Years from now, when people look back at this era of crypto, what role do you hope this book played in how people understand it?
When back in 2017 or 2018, I started to go to like a Barnes and Noble, which is, I don't know if listeners know, it's like a bookstore where they actually sell like physical books. Um, they used to have like one blockchain book in the finance section. And then like I go back and, a couple of years later, there's like 5 or 6. And now you go back and there's like a whole row of books that are like made about blockchain and digital assets. And so I think I wanted to just stand out as the one book that like has Warren Buffett's name associated with it for somebody who hated this asset class for so long, so that we can all kind of point and go, see, it was actually a pretty good idea that you should have been invested in this stuff. Of course, if it goes the other direction, then it's probably not that great. But hopefully, all things kind of trend in the right direction, and it'll serve as a point in time when Warren Buffett was looked at as somebody who didn't really like crypto a lot.
All righty. That now I want to move into a little bit. I know we're on top of the hour. Do you still have a few more minutes for us? Because
Sure.
we have not tapped into your bit finance, and I did want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
And for people that don't know, I'm trying to pull it up here really quick. So the bit finance is built on the idea that traditional discipline still matters in a new world. Why do you think so many people ignore the fundamentals when they enter crypto? And
Because a lot of times, we want to, and this is a just a Substack that I have. I post 2 or 3 times a week.
I'm
um,
going to. Sign
Oh,
up.
let's go. Plus one, plus
Oh,
one. And don't pledge anything. Just you can just say no thanks.
okay.
And yeah, there you go. And so I created this to really try to build in public. So one of the things that I'm trying to have fun doing is creating sort of discussions or things that I'm observing. And this really is the pin tweet about building an autonomous trading bot. I'm trying to use AI to, like I said, take the emotion out of some trading decisions and do it autonomously. And so to do that, I have to do a lot of research and I have to do a lot of understanding about the processes and back testing and methodologies that we're going to put in place to
Mhm.
try to stand out and bring some rigor to this kind of world. I also like to just write about, went to this conference, and this is like last week I was over at the Digital Asset Summit. Very little discussion about, I would say, any altcoins, a little bit of Bitcoin, but a lot of it around tokenization and stable coins and custody. And so it's interesting to kind of get a perspective that I can share with folks and just, have fun writing. I really did want to get back to writing. My mom was a television writer producer. Like I've had writing in my family. Like I've always been a writer. And that's why I haven't necessarily been like on screen all the time. Like I would love to be able to do what you do and like have the like legit setup and stream and talk. And I probably should, but writing is a medium for me that feels very comfortable. And I get to kind of write about the stuff that makes me really excited.
I think you and I need to find a medium because I love what I do. And this does take a lot of research too, especially with all my guests, what they are at the core, the questions, especially for the audience, so they can learn
Sure.
something and, be educated. But I love writing. I think I write better than I speak because I do have
Mm,
difficult time verbally articulating myself at
mm,
times or, trying to process what I'm trying to say,
mhm.
especially, because I do speak Spanish as well. So trying to cross over from one thought process to another and how they
Sure.
sound. And I want to write more. I just feel like sometimes I don't have the time.
Well, I mean, it takes a lot of like conscious thought and like you can always have AI help you, but the ideas of what I
Mhm.
want to write about are all like things I think of myself. But
Yeah.
like one of the challenges is again worrying or thinking like maybe don't people don't want to read this, but like I have a hard time reading. Like I have to sit down and actually read a book. Like I have to
Mhm.
kind of prioritize scannability because you want people to be able to like take it in small chunks
Yeah.
instead of like really dense like text because like nobody reads anymore. So it's like a tough medium. Like the video stuff is way easier because at least you can kind of get their attention. You're doing different things like that. It's tough to get people to read stuff.
I love and when I say I love to read, it's more I love to listen to the book.
Yeah,
So, if it's Audible, I will be right there downloading it, playing it, and I love to work and, have someone reading things to me, and I think that is it better than reading? Probably not, but
I do it all the time, and I'll do both. And then one piece of alpha that I personally love is I've turned up my speed over time. So I listen to books now on like 2.5 times speed, and it sounds like normal to me, but you can go through a 10-hour book in half the time. So now you're like processing information like as an engine, and it's pretty cool.
yeah, absolutely. You write for the curious, the skeptical, and the quietly building. Who do you see yourself in most?
I'm really like curious. I like to like run around and like try stuff out and like, can this work? Can this work? And as somebody who's always I've always kind of been like an idea machine. AI
Mhm.
is like really fun to be able to like go around and build stuff with. And so it's kind of this never ending box of toys that you can play with in a sandbox. And so, being able to say, well, you can do this in a way that is safe and fun, and trying to learn how to use it as a tool has been a lot of fun.
AI. So you say, or I might be meeting you, but you said your biggest mistake with AI was waiting too long to start. How many people do you think are still stuck in the same hesitation right now? Even
I,
if it's just to use it for writing or
I
whatever you
think
want
that
to read.
yeah, there's a reticence and a I call it this because this is what I felt. I'm not saying that it's what everybody feels, but like to me, not using it or not engaging it felt a little lazy. Like it was this genie in a bottle that could do and solve a lot of things for you if you could only figure out how to use it properly. And yeah, there's a lot of clunkiness about it. You've got to iterate and you've got to talk to it. And it's a whole thing right now. It's not very, very clean. And just like crypto in some regard. And being able to talk about that in the writing makes it easy for you to vent that frustration and maybe get people on your side and hopefully get them saying like, yeah, I want to learn about that too, or this is how you fix it and this is how you do it. So I wish I would have started a little bit sooner. But I'm here now, right? And I think that that's every day you're using it, you're compounding that knowledge and building that user base.
Yes. You've been building systems, bots infrastructures in public, sharing wins, mistakes, in real time. What made you choose transparency over perfection?
Because the more that you put yourself out there and you are fallible and you show that you may have fixed it or that there's a hole, it makes you so much more credible. There's things you'll find online that are like, this AI bot did this and it created you all this money. Like, it shows you all the good stuff, but it doesn't show you all the bad stuff. Pretty soon, we're going to be pushing out a couple strategies that we're hoping to share with people. But in order to get to those strategies and those indicators, we have to throw away a bunch of stuff too. And so
Yeah.
part of what we're going to be doing is building a kill list, basically, like these are the processes we decided not to go with, and here's why, or these why these strategies are bad. And so I think it just builds a lot of credibility in a space that is often defined by people who can be less than transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk a lot about data being the foundation, that the model is easy, but the data is the hard part. Why do you think most people underestimate that?
I think the data is kind of the boring setup. It's not as interesting. And if you can, it's easy for me to take some data and make something look good and maybe talk about
Mhm.
that than it is to be rigorous and maybe even pay up front for the right structure of data. And it's garbage in, garbage out. I learned this in business school. Like this, it does you no good to start from a place of inadequacy, right? And my mom was always very much like, you may as well buy the more expensive one because it's going to last longer and you're going to be happier with it, right? And so like that's how I feel about data integrity. Is it's worth every penny if you can get it in a granular way, as rigorous as you can, and it becomes a moat. So it's a way, it's a competitive advantage, because if you have that data and you're able to curate that data and use that data and you don't tell people how, all of a sudden you've got a special sauce and recipe that can't just be replicated, or AI can't just take it.
So you have built an autonomous trading bot.
Yeah.
Now, typically, I will do all my research to ask all the questions, etc. But I did not do anything because I did want to experience and talk to you about this live
Cool.
because I have seen a few of these go around. There's people that have posted them that are building trading bots. And I was like, instead of doing research, I want to hear from Mathew and kind of have him walk me through. And okay, you built a bot. What system did you use? Did you use Claude or did you use um, vibe coding? What did you use to build
Yeah.
this bot?
So I used a separate Mac Mini that I had in my closet. Like I totally forgot. I never throw my like computers away, and it turned out to be the one time everybody went to go get a Mac Mini. I was like, oh, I think I have one in my closet. And so I like totally wiped it, and I put on Claude, and I tried using OpenClaw, because one of the nice things about that is you can sort of automate some of the tasks. You can also do this with Claude Code. And it became all about like a vibe coding kind of session. And I had to construct a thesis. I had to do some research. I had to say, like, what are the right ways to go about this? And the idea was really more of a proof of concept to say, I can actually get this bot to trade with my instructions and have never coded anything in my life. And I made this joke. I wrote this article about, you know, not having coded anything. And I went to a coding camp at UCLA when I was like 12, and all these kids were coding C++ in these computers, and I won the pool tournament, like the billiards tournament. I was out there like beating these kids at pool instead of learning how to code. And one of the kids who was at that camp like sold a company to Google for like $30 million when he was 25. So I probably should have like listened a little bit more, but I used Claude Code to help me figure this out. And then it was a more of a proof of concept to say, okay, it's in a wallet, it's in a phantom wallet, it's plugged into a decentralized exchange or a trading platform. I've given it instructions. It gives me signals about when it thinks I should buy or when it thinks I should sell. And it's really just been an interesting way to prove the concept of being able to do this without any real coding experience, because that's always been a big limitation for me. I've always had the ideas, but I've never had a way to get them to execution that fast.
Now, when you started with this concept in your mind and then trying to execute it, do you have to understand trading? Do you have to be a seasoned trader in order to create something like this? You can't just go out there and be like, you know what? I know the basics. I really don't understand the fundamentals, but I am going to create something like this to make money. Is that even realistic?
I would say that it is to a certain extent, but the problem is you have to be honest with yourself about how much information you're relying on getting from that AI. One of the things that we're working on now is curating very specific strategies and or indicators for SPY, QQQ, and Bitcoin. And you really have to like go down a niche and say like, this is the exact thesis that I have for this asset or for this token. And once you come up with a thesis of a reason why, and maybe you don't have to be the best trader in the world, you could have a really simple thesis. One of them is like, buy on the first 30 minutes of the open at 9:30 in the morning if it goes up by this much or down by this much. And you can automate that rule pretty easily, but I don't know if it works 15 years from now or 10 years from now. So scalability and repeatability is always going to be tough. Like you've seen, like in your trading, you think everybody thinks they're a genius, right? When it goes up, and then like they get knocked in the teeth, right? Like, oh, well, I didn't see this coming.
You're
so
like,
that's
all of a
one
sudden,
yeah.
it goes limp, and you're like, what the fudge just happened?
Yeah. So you do need to have an understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. But once you have the ability to talk about what you're trying to accomplish, it can take you pretty far. You just have to be cognizant of the sort of, I want to say, selection bias or the answer bias. Like they'll tell you yes a lot, right? Your AI is never like, those jeans look bad.
No, it will not. Okay. So now the other question is, seeing this over and over on the timeline where some are like, I just vibe coded this in 5 minutes. How accurate is that?
So they can vibe code it. It'll probably lose money. Like I've seen a lot of people say like, I vibe coded it, I put $200 in, and the AI just like didn't know what to do, or went and bought some Pokemon cards with it. I had one bot. I coded it to buy put options on the SPY, so like bet against the SPY, and it sold the put options because it thought that it was like taking the inverse. I thought by going short you wanted me to sell, so I sold the put. I'm like, that's a naked put. Like, I'm unlimited liability right here. This is like really bad, fake paper money.
Oh,
But
snap.
like, you always paper trade it too, right? You test trade it. But like that happens all the time. So these people saying that they can do this in 5-10 minutes, or that this poly market bet found all these things and they made all this money, like I don't want to be the person that says like they're not really accurate, but I've been looking at it very specifically over the last couple of weeks, and it's a lot harder than it sounds. It's almost impossible to replicate. And if you were lucky enough to have it strike once or twice, I have a hard time believing you'd be consistently good.
Got it. Okay, so on the bot that you did, you started this with 200 trading in Solana tokens. Now, when
Yep.
you're talking about Solana tokens, we're talking about meme tokens and things like that.
So,
Yeah.
so this is what happened, right? I thought I'm gonna code this thing, and you. It turns out the platform that you're using, you're kind of restricted to whatever tokens are on that platform. So we use the Jupiter Dex,
Yeah.
and there's only so many tokens on the Jupiter Dex. And so I went, kind of like you, I went to bed. It's like, okay, give it some time. It'll make some decisions. It'll score some stuff. And I'm like, okay,
Oh,
great. It's going to have some Jupiter. It's going to have some, some Solana, maybe whatever these top coins on a Solana. I wake up and there's 5 meme coins in this thing. I'm like, what is going on? It's like got Popcat and Mog and like Whiff. And I'm like, dude, this isn't 2022 or 23. Like, you can't be just going and buying all these meme coins. So like, you gave it a little bit of rope, right? It just like
yeah.
went and bought all these. So it did well. Like I think for like a week or two, it kind of like bounced around. I was just kind of curious to see where it went. Position sizing was also really important, so we had to make sure that all the positions were, I think, $5 and $10. Like it was cheap enough on Solana. The positions were small enough, and nobody like was going to get wrecked. And so I think at like 100, I think I got to like 210, and then it went down to like 180, and then part of that was that money that I told you about, where I copy and pasted it to send that money somewhere else, and that money went away. So now I think I used it for buying data. I think I like cashed it all out and I'm using it to buy data. But it was just the proof of concept to be able to say like we could actually get it to work. It's a lot harder than it sounds.
Okay, because do you have to like be consistent and feed it because it will interpret one thing and do another?
Well, that and the tokens, right? So if you're
Yeah.
using this through like OpenClaw or through an API, the tokens cost money. So every time this agent has to go do a check on the market, or like if it's trying to consistently check it, like it eats up tokens and it costs a lot of money. So there was a point in time where I was like, oh, well, shoot, I spent $70 in API credits trying to get this thing to trade for me. And it's costing me more money. I mean, of course, if you have tens of thousands of dollars, it won't really matter. But like when you're using $200, you're like, oh, it's like my cost of doing business kind of ate into any profits I might make pretty quickly.
Is that why you didn't select to go to pump.fun?
Yeah, right. Well, and that's the other thing too. Like people are saying, like, oh, I just tell my AI to here's $10,000, go, don't break it. And the truth is, it's absolutely going to. Like it
Really?
it doesn't know enough to know what you know to be
Mhm.
careful. Like, you think you have a hard time distinguishing good and bad contact addresses? I have a hard time knowing, like, oh, this new one's going to pop up. It goes up 110%, whatever. These things will just find whatever they think is interesting using parameters that you set. And if you don't set them the right way, the guardrails the right way, this thing's going off a cliff real fast.
That
I was
is
just happy.
wild.
I was just happy it didn't steal the money. I was just happy it didn't like send the money somewhere. That was really like the best case. And you had to write, there's a line in the code, line in the memory file. Do not send this without my approval to these locations. And
Because
you got
would
to be.
it have if you didn't put that line of code? Do you think it would have?
Well, so there is something called I think it's called injective prompting, which
Yeah.
is somebody can take over your computer or get access to your computer and then tell the AI to go send it to this address. And that is absolutely something that people need to be concerned about. And that's why I also don't want to leave a lot of money on an exchange or in a DEX using it. If I'm going to be using
Mhm.
the trading bot, I'll be doing it through like a Kraken or like a Coinbase, where the APIs are a bit stronger and the custody is a little bit more secure than my own than my own custodial like space right now.
Love that. Yes. Now, oh my God, I can talk about AI all night because I'm obsessed with AI. And I try to code certain things and it's not as easy and it's not
Yep.
as the way that people see, we see it all over. And one of the things is that I wanted to start writing, articles
Hmm.
and after my live stream, say that
Hmm.
tomorrow an article is published about our show, bullet points, etc., and then putting it out there. So I was trying to do coding, trying to take the API and then, like go and research this. No, it kept giving me articles and information about other shows that I did. And I was like,
Oh,
you know what? Uh, it was frustrating, and I haven't given up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it did some good things because I didn't just ask it to do that. I asked it to do several things. And then, as soon as the show is done, I go punch it in, I go enter
Nice.
the URL, and then, it would start dissecting all the information. There are platforms out there that do that already for you, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it costs money and it takes credits and this and that. And I was like, well, why can't I just build one of my own? And it's easier said than done.
Yeah, but it's really rewarding. People
Yeah.
understand what API calls are now. They understand what these tokens are. It's kind of fun, but we're still in the very, very early stages of this to be a place where it's going to be so much more accessible pretty soon. Like it's happening really fast.
Yes, it is. If someone followed your work for a year, what would change about how they think, not just how they invest?
A lot of it should be, again, poking curiosity and like challenging why people say certain things. I think that there's a tendency and an easiness to go along with the crowd to a certain degree. It's comfortable and it's socially acceptable, right? It makes us feel like we're socially together as one. I've always been a weird kid, and like, I've always thought differently. And so I really try to just do things in a different way. And it's served me really well. A lot of times
Yeah.
people try to do, you know, I, a lot of times people try to go through the front door, and I know there's always a side door. There's always another way to like do something. There's always another way to think about it. And I have a lot of fun doing that.
Love that. Um, when all of it is said and done, beyond the funds, the platforms, the book, how do you want your impact to be felt?
Again, I think survival is a really important one. And, being a person that was always here as a fiduciary, being here to try to provide good quality content, educate people, have fun doing it, and really just be a teacher. Like if money didn't matter, I'd play golf every day and teach at a university. Like that would, not that money wouldn't have to matter anyways, but like if I had my druthers, that'd be something I would do. I just like to be able to instill hopefully wisdom on people. And so after being here for a certain amount of time, it's a place I want to stay, and it's a place I want to like leave my mark, and I want to be part of it, and I want to be part of the community as well. And it's tough because nobody's just going to say yes. So I encourage people out there, if you haven't quite found it, just keep knocking on the door, and pretty soon you'll be here.
I love that. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Always.
All right. Long-term conviction or short-term opportunity?
Okay. Is that the question?
Yes. Oh,
Long-term
I didn't tell you
conviction.
we're going to get started, right? I go right
Okay.
into it like a wreck. I'm going
Do
into
I
the
feel-
highway opposite. My bad. Yeah, that's the question. Sorry, Matthew. My bad. Okay.
It's
Yes.
okay.
Okay. We're going to start now. This is a question, rapid fire questions. Whatever comes out of your mouth first. Long-term conviction or short-term opportunity.
Long-term conviction.
Data or intuition.
Data.
Bitcoin or altcoins.
Bitcoin.
Bull market energy or bear market clarity.
Bear market energy.
Build quietly or build in public.
Build in public.
AI driven trading or human discretion.
Human discretion.
Risk first or reward first.
I want to say reward first.
One trade one trade that hits big or consistent small wins.
Consistent small wins.
Legacy or liquidity.
Liquidity.
Now, if you had to strip everything down to one principle,
Hmm.
discipline or patience.
Patience.
Love that. Now, for everyone watching right now, if the life you say you want asked more of you than you've ever had to give, what would you still choose? So let me
Mm.
rephrase that. So what would you want to tell everybody that's watching tonight? If the life you say you want asked more of you than you've ever had to give, would you still choose it?
Yeah, I think it's really important that you continue and stay consistent, right? Like stay
Mhm.
here and stay trying to be part of it.
Yeah.
And don't worry about things that kind of hold you down. Just like keep knocking at the door.
Love that. In a world moving faster than ever, everyone that's watching, all our listeners, remember this: it's not the loudest voices or the quickest wins that last. It's the ones who stay grounded, stay disciplined, and keep building when no one's watching. And that's where the real story begins, like here with Mathew. Mathew, do you have any last parting words of wisdom or advice for our audience?
Just want to say that I think that Q2, Q3 should be really interesting. I think that there's a lot of positive momentum, tailwinds. If you have any concerns or you're like thinking this is a bear market, there's a lot of positive momentum in this space. And I go to a lot of conferences and talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of interest. So stay with it and continue to think of different ways that you can build income again to fill that investment bucket. And I can always happy to answer questions. And thank you so much, Leslie, for hosting and asking all these amazing and intuitive questions. I had a blast, really did.
I know the time went by so quick. No, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for coming on the show. I love to have real raw conversations like this. There's just truth about everything that you're building and really appreciate it. I do want to read your book and I would love to have you back once, I
Yeah,
read the book and then, maybe the questions will be different by then. And maybe we can talk a little bit more finance. I am going
yeah,
to be doing a finance show with Tammy
great.
Hammer, and that's her specialty. Loves it, and I think that she would probably also love to have you back.
Yeah, would be more than happy. Please consider me a resource for sure.
Absolutely. And I'm here as a resource as well. If you ever want to send anything over, whatever, and then we can talk about it on the show, talk finance, whatnot, definitely reach out to us. But I will reach out to you to do a show with Tammy. I'm
Awesome.
putting
That
that
sounds great.
together.
Looking forward to it.
Mathew, again, thank you so much for saying yes, coming on the show. And, this was Unscripted with Mathew Snider. And if you are not freaking following him on X, what the fudge are you even doing with your life? Because do you really want to be financially secure in this space? Obviously not if you don't follow Matt.
That's right.
Mathew, thank you once again. And thank you, everybody that tuned in. Have an amazing evening, everyone. Take
Thanks, Leslie.
care. Toodles,